So my name's Hywel Williams. I am part of the data team within the Access project, and it's networks within packages, so I'm not going to try to explain the structure, but what we are is the bit of it that's going to try and do this. So there's a few of us I'll introduce in a moment, but what we are about is championing data science and computational methods for environmental social science. So my own research is, well, I come from a computing background, but these days I work a lot with web data, social media, news, that sort of thing, applying it in environmental science, so looking at weather impacts, but also climate communications. So this is very much my bag, is how do we use tech and data and geeky skills to do social science, essentially. And we're going to try and champion that, because there's a gang of us that do similar things, and we're going to try and be a point of contact within Access. The other two activities we'll tell you a little bit more about. There's a thing called the data exchange, which is, I guess, aimed at secondary data analysis, making environmental data available to social scientists and vice versa, trying to essentially publicize and direct and signpost. And then the third part, which Michelle will say a little bit about in a moment, is the public engagement tracker, which is really focused on doing some nice media analysis to try and figure out what sort of narratives are around at any one time in the environmental discourse. So, the team, Lorraine is possibly online, I couldn't see, but she has been doing a lot of really cool stuff with survey data and opinion tracking, so she's going to bring some of that data. They've been building nice dashboards, so she's part of the gang, and the four people in the room are, well, there's me, I'm in the computing department, and then there's Travis and Saffron, who you may have seen, and they will stand up in a moment, and Michelle, who's going to stand up also in a moment. And Michelle, well, she'll introduce herself, but she is one of the Access sort of postdocs or fellows, so she's going to do a lot of the actual work while the rest of us flap around. So, championing environmental social data science is a long phrase. So I think I said some of this, but a focus point basically for this kind of research. So if you have a project where you think maybe you need some data science skills, it could be something simple like doing a bit of stats on a spreadsheet, or it could be something hard like natural language processing on 1 million documents, then you can give us a call and we will probably pass you on to someone else, but we might be able to do it ourselves and help. So things like the flexible fund projects could be a good locus for that. We can provide expertise or consult on those smaller projects if there's any demand for that. But really it's about flying the flag and showing what's possible. Now I know that there is a big computational social science world out there now. There's an annual conference. It has 700 or 800 people at it. It's international. It's big, but there are very few traditional social scientists that go to it, and a lot of the people there call themselves social scientists, but they come from physics or computing or Facebook, and actually I think there's a lot of room for interaction between computational and, well, non-computational bits of social science, so hopefully we're going to be that bridge. All right, the data exchange. So this is not going to create data, it's going to put data out there and signpost to things that already exist. So stuff like the Office for National Statistics or government sources or academic projects. There are many, many data sets that exist. They can be hard to find, they can be hard to work with, they can be hard to sort of wrangle. So we're going to try and demonstrate how that can be done, point people towards them, how-to guides, blog posts, little demos of things that are possible. What happens when you bring together air pollution data with demographics, with, I don't know, social deprivation or something like that? How do you bring those pieces of data together and do something statistically valid? What else? Yeah, the target audience for that would be academics, journalists, data analysts, practitioners. So, and what we're going to try and do is actually co-create what that should be, because we don't really know how it should be to be the best that it can be. So we're going to try and put that together over the next 12 months or 2 years, I suppose. Now, what time are we handing over, Michelle? Is it right now? Shall I hand over to you now? Okay, I'm going to stop talking and hand over to Michelle, who will introduce herself.
Hello. Yes, as Hywel said, I'm one of the research fellows on the Access project, and the public engagement tracker is probably, I'm probably right in saying this, it's one of the first tangible outputs of the Access project. It's a thing. So I've been in the post about 6 weeks, and I've already had to try and build a thing to show you today. So please be kind, is what I ask. So the public engagement tracker, name TBC. If anybody in the room or online can think of a better name for this thing, please volunteer it. But it's called the PET for now, the Public Engagement Tracker. So the point of it really is to allow people to track the conversation online about environmental issues through online media, social media, news articles, anything else online media. And it will bring to attention what were the hot topics either at a particular point of time or currently. And really what we're looking to develop is a suite of dashboards, tools that you can use to access that information. So instead of having to trawl through all of Twitter, we'll hopefully provide you with something where you can just get to the bones of what it is that you're actually interested in. So the idea is it gives you quick insights that you can then go away and explore further. And yeah, as I said, data sources, far-ranging, but really focused sort of on social media and news articles to be starting with. So, plans so far for the tracker. So the work's in progress so far. I'm going to show you in a moment a Twitter dashboard that I've knocked up. Now, in my experience in the past of developing tools, it's always better to start with something, even if it's bad, that people can then make better. So all of your ideas, we're going to ask you for your feedback shortly, all of your ideas about what you would find useful. But you can have a look at a thing that's been built and then say, well, this is what would make it better, or this is what I would find useful. We also have access to a thing called CrowdTangle. So if you've never heard of this before, it's made available to academics to access Facebook and Instagram information, public pages, public groups, so not like little private community groups, they're all private, but CrowdTangle allows us to access the conversation on Facebook and Instagram, which is normally quite locked down, so we'll hopefully be able to use that data to build a dashboard to allow access to that as well, and news article monitoring as well. So there's lots of tools out there to get news articles, so we're going to do hopefully something cool with presenting, you know, these are the hot topics in the news, so ideas are welcome. Right then, so this is where we hope that the technology works and allows the demo. Okay, so let's try this. So hopefully we can see. So this is the dashboard that I've knocked up. So it allows us to filter some Twitter data. So this is all tweets to do with climate change. It tells you how many tweets there are. I apologise if it's a bit fuzzy. We can filter for particular dates. We can download the data for you to go away and use and analyse. We've got a time series. We can see when the when the spikes were, when people were talking about this particular topic. We've got information in there about what the charts are showing us and what they're not showing us. We can look at sentiment, so how positive was the conversation, how negative was the conversation. And again, just information about what that chart actually includes. These are just some ideas of things that we could do with the data and things that we could present on the tool. We can look at what were the hot hashtags in use on Twitter for that particular time period, for that topic, the users who were tweeting the most. There may be a particular organisation that's hot on something. Which links are people sharing? An awful lot of stuff on Save Soil in the last couple of months. And then we can also have a look at which tweets are the most influential, which are being retweeted the most, which have got the most followers, which users have got the most followers. So this is the conversation that's going to be most influential out there. And this is where, if I was doing it live, I could move it along, but we'll just... Yeah, so you get the general idea, and then there's things that we can do. So I'll just go back a little bit. So we can select different topics. So nature positive is a kind of a key hashtag. It's not all about climate change. We can look at biodiversity loss. Again, we can see where the peaks were in time. We can look at different time windows. Again, I'll move things along. can create a word cloud. There's a lot of possibilities out there about different things we can do. So this is a starter for 10, really, to get you all thinking about this is the sort of tool that my job is to make sure is created. So give us your ideas. What would be useful? This is what I've been able to knock up in 6 weeks. What else can we do? So I'm going to stop that now.
Just curious, can you also filter what type of people are going these streets? For example, policymakers and scientists or philanthropic?
We can filter based on what Twitter tells us about that person. So a user profile on Twitter only tells us so much about that person. So we're kind of limited, really. We could build a bank of, we know these users are particular government organisations or what have you, and that could be something that we could use, in the background of the tool to help filter it. So they're just, things to think about.
Sorry. One project we're doing now is creating particular audiences on Twitter. So we have audiences of, for example, energy analysts in Germany, or UK politicians interested in conservation, right? So you can construct lists of relevant people and then track them and see what they're saying and who they're saying it to.
Oh, wow, okay. Saffron, I think that this might be where we need to start running around with the microphone.
Okay, can you all put your hands up again so I can get a sense? Right.
Thanks, great. I was just wondering if you could design it so that it can be, you could be quite specific about particular issues that you were tracking, particularly in relation to particular policy developments over a period of time. That could be really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so one of the things you could, type in a keyword within a particular topic. So if you're interested in deforestation discussion, you could just look at articles or media to do with that. Absolutely. Yeah.
A question and then, or two questions actually. We're quite interested in social media influencers with regards to nature, and we're doing sort of some work around countryside code and accessing different audiences. So anything around sort of who, if you can identify who are the social media influencers, would be really useful.
Yeah.
Around nature particularly. And then I was just wondering what the opportunities were for integrating this with DEFRA and NRW and ourselves and Nature's got one. So we've got the People and Nature surveys, we've got DEFRA's social attitudes on public social, I can never remember what it's called, sorry. And there's a marine one. And I know they're not sort of social media in real time, but it'd be really good if they're national representative surveys, if there's any way of integrating, even if it's just in dashboards and things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the grand plan is that there'll be different buttons to press depending on what dashboard you're interested in, so that you can access those different data sources. Absolutely.
And one thing we should say as well is that we're looking to build some advisory panels, aren't we, for both our public engagement tracker and for the secondary data sources website interface as well. So on those, if there are people who, I think, sorry, I'm skipping ahead to the end of the slide, but just seeing as it's come up, that we are, so that's exactly the sort of thing that we'd like people to be involved with to help shape those. Another one here?
Yeah, I'm just interested whether the platform does any social network analysis, so you can see where the messages are spreading and how they're spreading through the network, as well as kind of what they are.
That's the grand plan, yes.
There was another question over there. Benjamin, hang on.
We will come to you.
Oh.
Hi. As someone who's actually done some research on Twitter, I know that a fair amount of users could be bots or inauthentic users. I was just kind of curious, are we accounting for that somehow?
How?
Right. So bots are really tricky. There are methods which don't work that detect them. There are heuristics which do work, which detect them, but they're quite extreme. So I think, bots are, like it or not, part of the mix. We can try and flag things we think might be bots. That's certainly doable. But it's very hard to reliably exclude them totally. And some bots you don't want to exclude, because a news aggregator is a bot, but actually very influential and very useful and a big part of the conversation. So it's a really deep topic. We are aware, we have tried to study them in other work, so we will do our best basically. It's almost, you could do a project just on that. Flexible fund, let's do one.
Okay, let's hold it there for now because we've got other question and answer sessions built in, but just so that we get through the topic.
And also, hold all these thoughts because we've got an interaction bit in a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions online. So
Oh, okay. Sorry, online attendees. We have got a Padlet, so you will be asked, everybody, to take part in a minute.
Keep going, keep going.
Okay. What's gone wrong? There we go. This is just an example of the sorts of things that we can knock up really quickly in CrowdTangle, but we can also access that data. So this is Facebook and Instagram discussion. Okay, so I've said some of this already, but essentially our next steps are the need for co-creation. Okay, we can't do this on our own. We need your input, which you've already started to give us, which is fantastic. So the Access community will help inform and develop this. We'll take an iterative approach to development, so we'll launch something and it will gradually just get better and better and better, and we'll add bits to it as time goes on. So what we need ideas for is what to include, what you're going to use it for, what's it useful, and yeah, ideas for the name would also be great. Or if you like the public engagement tracker, we'll stick with that. It's all good. All right. Trav, do you want to come and talk about training, and then before we get everybody to do some work for us?
Okay. Hi, I'm Travis Coan. I'm at Exeter as well. So I've been tasked with the training aspect on the data side, and so that's what I'll be doing. So when I'm not at an Access symposium, I'm co-director of the Exeter Q-Step Center, and so that center is really designed to teach quantitative methods to social scientists. Okay, and I think we are already sort of operating in an interdisciplinary sort of environment, so I think it's a rich environment for doing some of this stuff. But the plan, as it stands now, is to build on some of the training that we're already doing and I've already put together at the Q-Step Center and as part of the National Center for Research Methods. To provide additional training that's targeted really at environmental social scientists to teach or upskill on sort of various data analysis tools and techniques, computational methods, those sorts of things. And so we've already, again, put together quite a bit of material, not directed at environmental social scientists, but could be easily sort of tailored to that. And given the sort of shoestring budget for training, I think we're going to kind of have to figure out ways of really getting that sort of overlap to make it work. Yeah, so that's the current plan. Again, so just like everything, I guess, for this talk, it's really about please share ideas for training, like what sort, because again, we don't necessarily know what would be the best sort of areas of focus. There was already, some geospatial sort of stuff was being mentioned, but kind of where should we target the training? And I think our first sort of date for delivery is in September. I think there's going to be a 2-day session in September, and we still haven't nailed down exactly what we want that to be. But again, if there are any sort of thoughts on this, we would really appreciate it. Because again, we can co-create and tailor these sorts of training to what's best for you guys. Thanks.
Okay, so this is the point where we're going to invite questions on the data exchange and the tracker, but I'm wondering, unless anyone's got any burning questions, whether we skip ahead to the feedback bit. Does anybody have any questions for the data exchange and the tracker that they'd like to ask now? The online questions, yes, we could have a look at those, yeah.
Could somebody read them out, because we can't see them up here? Oh, yeah, there's a question in the room while we're waiting. Yeah.
Where was the question then?
And sorry, this might be a really banal question, but as you're scraping these data, you're using presumably search terms to find how,
right.
And those search terms may morph. who's choosing those search terms, and how do you make sure that those evolve over time to encapsulate the number of issues and the evolution of issues as they transmogrify in time?
Yes, very good question. So I think we need to keep the terms that we're searching for quite broad and delve within them. But it's also a case of somebody needs to be kind of on it, me, the data team, to make sure that the changing conversation and the changing terms are constantly kind of added to the pot, really. As academics, we can, or if we're doing academic research, we can access all of Twitter going back to 2006. So we can look at that conversation. If we think, oh, actually, we really need to look at the term energy, you know, we can go back and we could do that. So really, again, it goes back to being informed by the community. You know, we need input from, you know, what do people need, what's useful.
If it comes down to it needs to be user-generated, right? I mean, if it's really the key to this working for people is that they can put in their own terms and find semantically similar sort of topics, then that's something that we'd need to
figure out.
There's two aspects in there. There's one, crowdsourcing it at large, and I think engaging with that online community is also really critical in this co-design step, as well as an academic or practitioner step, because actually those things are kind of codependent in looking at that as well, so it's important to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, great, thank you.
We had one more.
No.
Oh, you've decided not to. Okay, carry on.
That's fine. Any online questions? If anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question. Nope. We'll move things along. You can always grab us later and ask questions, not a problem. Okay, so this is where we need to get you to do a bit of work now. I know it's late in the day, but we've set up a Padlet page. So what we've got is, if you've ever used Padlet before, essentially we've got headings of topics and you can add your ideas to each topic. And you can also see ideas that other people have put and you can say, yeah, that's a great idea, or no, that's not so good, I'm not so happy with that. And then we'll see kind of, you know, which ideas. So we're looking for ideas for the data exchange, you know, what data sources and things do you know about or would you find useful to have access to? Thinking about the tracker, you know, what topics, keywords might you like to see? Data sources, what kind of analysis. You know, there's been some ideas already shared, so please add that to the Padlet. Building on Travis's introduction about the training, what training needs would you like, you know, what would be useful? And yeah, any ideas for the name for the tracker as well?
Please repeat yourselves, right? If you've asked it in the room, please ask it or say it again on the Padlet, because that's our caption.
No idea is too silly. Just put on there everything. This is a chance to brainstorm without. So talk to your neighbour, work together, work individually. Those of you online, please feel free to access the link to the Padlet online. So I will pop that up. Now we do have a small number of iPads in the room. So if you're going to find it too difficult to use on your phone, or you don't have access to something to access the Padlet, please grab an iPad. Otherwise, please delve into the Padlet and give us a shout if you're having any issues accessing it or just want to ask a question. That's fine.
Okay, I'm just going to try and summarise some of these things and give some answers to questions that I've seen come up in no particular order, because you've all been great and there's loads of things coming out here, which is really good to see. And I should say that the data team is a really interdisciplinary team. I don't know whether that was made clear at the beginning, but Lorraine's a psychologist, I'm a human geographer, you're a computational social scientist who works in politics, and Hywel and Michelle are both in computer science. So we are already working across multiple disciplines, and we have lots of conversations, like I say to Michelle and Hywel. I'm pretty sure there'll be some people in the audience who don't know what CrowdTangle is, and we have conversations like this. So there are no such thing as a dumb question, because they've already heard it from me. So feel free to put your dumb questions in there, because it's anonymous and I can always repeat them for you. So on things like, can images, photos, memes be analysed? organised. I'm just going to pick up on that because that's actually my specific area of expertise and interest. That's one thing. Computer vision is a real emerging topic, something that we're really interested in as a group, and that's certainly something that we're going to look at doing. So we're not only looking at things like hashtags, but also about how things like images spread around the web, how they gain traction, how they become go viral, and so on and so forth. So that's certainly something we can look at. And I should also say that between us three faculty, Trav, Hywel and I, we co-supervise a number of different PhD students, I think about 15 between the three of us, who between them cover many of these different topics. So, for example, Ned Westerby is a PhD student looking at memes, and climate change politics in the US particularly. So, yeah, we've got a whole bunch of expertise that we can draw in as well at Exeter and beyond. Looking at training needs, I noticed that somebody's put machine learning for dummies in there. Brilliant. That's exactly what we want to see. So Hal mentioned in the training slide, Travis mentioned in the training slide about a spring school that they ran through the Q-Step Centre here at Exeter, which was super popular, and I think more popular than that you guys imagined might be, almost oversubscribed in fact. And we imagined that that could be a really straightforward translation for the environmental social scientists in Access, that we could have a kind of version of that was less potentially about the real computational social science skills behind it, but really about the methods, the ideas, the ethics around using data and so on, perhaps working on with our public engagement tracker, or whatever it becomes known as, to give you the skills to be able to use the PET in your own work. So that's the kind of thing that, we're already thinking of, so that's great. There was something else I saw in one of these that I thought was really interesting. On co-creation of methods, I've already said that we're having an advisory board, so if you are really interested in either the data exchange or the public engagement tracker, please do drop us an email, well, probably Michelle in fact, and we can compile our advisory board. We'd really like to have insight from academics and policymakers, practitioners broadly conceived. I noticed that somebody had said something about ethics as well. That's definitely something that we will be covering as social scientists. On misinformation, again, that's another area that as a team we've got quite a lot of expertise at here. Kathy Treen, one of our PhD students here, working with a major social media platform whose name can't be disclosed through an NDA, but you can probably imagine, on climate change misinformation specifically. So we have got expertise that we can draw on, and we're really happy to advise and inform and link those skills out. I don't think I've got anything specific beyond that to say, apart from thanks all for your feedback. If you have other things, put them in the tracker, put them in the Padlet. Feel free to email Michelle. Sorry, Michelle, I'm going to send lots of email traffic your way. But we really are looking for kind of community involvement as we start to create these two tools. So do be involved. Thank you.
Right. Rather embarrassing, I think we're going to finish early. So if anyone knows any good jokes. Basically, we've got loads of good stuff on the Padlet there. There was one I spotted, newspapers were the source, and that's already in the plan. We're just waiting for Travis, basically. He's got to press the button on the web page, and then we're going to have an API that provides like 80,000 sources worldwide, so we're going to be tracking all sorts of news and all sorts of things. What else? Call to action. So, join our gang, right? Access is a big gang, but we're going to have a little gang inside the big gang. So, if you want to be involved in the design of the public engagement tracker or the data exchange, please do email. We'll send a follow-up email after this meeting, so it'll be easy for you to sign up. Join our working groups, and there will be working groups. We will actually get together, talk about what we're going to do, shape the direction, and if you could have a big role or a little role, you can get involved heavily and spend hours thinking about it, or you can just say, you know what, as a user, I'd like it to be red, not green, and give user level feedback like that. We're going to try and we're particularly keen to have end users of these tools in the design, right? We can't all be designers, some of us have to be users because they're the people who will actually drive it forward. We're going to be agile in the software design sense, where we're going to do lots of incremental changes, lots of small improvements, and be very much directed by showing people lots of iterations and saying, do you like this, do you not like that? This is good, is it bad? So we need that community. we're going to have a meeting. We're going to have it in the Alan Turing Institute in London. I am a Turing Fellow, so I think they'll let me borrow a room for a day. It's nice. It's in the British Library. It's very easy to get to. They have free fruit. Really free. Right, you can just take it. So that fruit. All kinds of fruit.
Be more specific.
Apples, oranges, bananas. So lots of fruit. That'll be fun. A day in September, and what that will be is partly perhaps the first meetings, face-to-face meetings of these working groups. So come along, access to pay, have a nice time. But it'll also be hopefully a chance to engage with some of the Turing community, because I don't know how many people are familiar with the Alan Turing Institute. It's a big data science and AI thing, lots of money, lots of prestige, lots of corporate interest, lots of social data scientists, lots of environmental data scientists who are really, I would say, almost entirely unplugged from this access community now. And I would hope that in a couple of years' time, they'll be very much overlapping and engaged. So this might be the first chance to meet some of that group if we can sign them up and get them on board.
Sorry, would there be a virtual element to that as well? Or?
I suppose. I mean, I would much rather have it all be face-to-face, because I think I'm so, I mean, no offence, but I'm so sick of it personally. But I think in the modern world we have to be hybrid, don't we? So I think we will incorporate the hybrid.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm fudging because I don't want to say yes, but the answer is yes. Yeah. Okay, so Michelle's email is there, so you can email her with all of your questions. I think that's really it. But we have time, if anybody would like, because we're early, if anyone has any questions, comments, things they'd like to discuss in this space, or things that our little Venn diagram at the start is missing a circle, right? So we've got the championing, we've got the tracker, we've got the exchange, but maybe we should have something else in there too. Now might be a good time to shout it out. And if nobody shouts anything out, then we'll stop.
Any comments, questions? People are getting their bags. They're about to leg it out the door. Okay.
Okay, all right. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll hand back.
Thank you.